Hey, welcome into Crunch Time with Chris. Captain Crunch has officially sponsored us, so it's Captain Crunch Time with Chris. No, they have not Coach Dan Swofford of Mountain Grove, actually, but maybe your appearance will help push them over the edge. Yes, congratulations coming off another big win here against Thayer, who was previously undefeated. It's your 5th straight win against the Bobcats, who consistently have great seasons, but they run into you guys, and you guys have had that formula that no one else seems to have. What was key in that win for you guys?
Well, I think the biggest key was just being us and doing what we do and knowing that we're getting ready to face a really good football team, and that's what high school football is all about, and just enjoying the process and not freezing up in the moment, and just being your best. And I just, think a football team, it can only be what it is. And so, what that said, be the best version of yourself, and I felt like that's what we were on Friday night.
Yeah, and we got the video here coming up. It's got to be a nice feeling heading into the postseason. You have now earned that bye that comes with your seeding, and you get the winner of that Buffalo-Salem matchup coming up. Salem, who you beat last year in the postseason. So this was a fun game. This was our game of the week. By the way, Coach, thank you for making me look so smart. I was the only one here who picked you, which is nice because sometimes when we do these video casts, I end up sitting next to the coach who I picked against, and that did not happen this time. But I looked back at the history of your matchup with you guys, and obviously you're a couple classes larger, so that's going to give you guys that talent base to pull from, and I'm sure you've leveraged that very well in your second year here. And I saw that you guys have won 4 straight coming into that matchup, now 5 straight. And I was surprised I was the only one who kind of saw that. But they are obviously has been so impressive every time we've seen them as well. And, we're seeing here kind of, by the way.
They got a great football team.
Yeah.
And, they're one of the smaller schools in the conference. But, man, they play with big hearts. And I've always admired their program, their culture there. With their community and their coaches. They just do a great job.
Yeah, they're so much fun to watch. Basketball season, too. We love covering them during basketball season. And I know Mountain Grove, though, and there's nothing like the atmosphere you guys have at that place.
Yeah, we have a great atmosphere. I mean, that is a big thing there. I hear that all the time. It's like, the atmosphere that we have there. And it's Friday Night Lights. I mean, you say, what is Friday Night Lights? Hey, go to Mountain Grove. You're going to find out what Friday Night Lights are all about.
Yeah, I think, looking at it, too, whenever I go there, I feel like I'm walking into like a cathedral. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like an old school, gladiator. Yeah.
The community, and there's a guy by the name of Mr. Wilson. I hope he watches this. He's a man that graduated from Mountain Grove in 1959.
Oh yeah.
Who has put a lot of money into that stadium right there, and then the school has just kind of said, look, we're going to do everything with excellence, and so. He did the stadium, he did the scoreboard, he did the big panther that we have. So
it's cool.
I mean, he's very generous, and I think everybody needs one of the Mr. Wilsons. He's one of those. He's a great man, and we all should live our life like him.
I got to tell you too, when I did pick you guys, one of the things I remember was the Liberty game because I saw Liberty really shut out Stratford week 1, and I was like, wow, that team is so good. And we get biased when we do our picks, because we've seen a team like that, and I saw how good Liberty looked there. And then I came with my camera, I showed up to the Liberty game, and in that matchup, you guys did the opposite. You guys were putting the hurt on them, and I was like, okay, I got to remember this. I cannot pick against Mount Grove again. I don't care who you guys play. And I've said that about Thayer, too. When I have picked against Thayer, I've always been wrong. And I'm like, okay, then you guys both played each other. I had to just do research. I'm like, I want the numbers spell it out. But, obviously, what's funny is, so when we do these videos, we're kind of at the mercy of how the game went. Danielle was here for the whole game. So in the beginning, it was Thayer getting out at front. That's why we saw that first touchdown there. And you made adjustments as you went along and pulled away late in this game. Was there anything that you identified that your team was doing super well that you wanted to focus on?
Well, what we're a flexbone football team, and so that's not traditional football. But, I don't think I could get along in a lot of places, and they couldn't get along with me because of my belief system and how I do things. That's like everything in my life is just a little bit different. I think outside the box on things, and I say outside the box. We're doing football, a lot like they did years ago, with a few little things to help you deal with different types of defenses, and so people, they don't know exactly how to see us in a way, because we're not. It's not a sexy passing, throw the ball all over the place. It's hitting things a lot different. And I've heard people talk about this on TV, that it's like, hey, is this really even football?
Yeah.
It's just a different way of doing things. So, those games that you talked about there, hey, those teams are really good. And like, you take like the Mountain View game, man, those guys are just good at what they do. And then you take Thayer, they're good at what they do. And I hope to think that we're just good at what we do, and taking care of business. And hey, that was a good time right there. hey, I was celebrating right there. You got to celebrate those victories. And so, anyway, it was just a good night. And I feel like one of the things I like about this team is they rise to the occasion, and they show up to the big games, and they practice well on those weeks. Now I got to tell you, when you don't, for every coach in America, I'm sure says the same thing. Like getting kids to practice well when you don't think it's, when you think you're gonna win, and so it's always a challenge, and making sure that you're prepared. And these boys do a pretty good job of it. I got to coach them up sometimes and help them get better in practice. But with the fact of the matter is they're learning how to prepare for games, and that's crucial in what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, so this game that we're seeing right now, the Liberty game, obviously we just talked about, I showed up there, and I didn't have much time, but in that time, because it was the end of the first half and like the first couple of series of the third quarter, and then I had to leave. That's just kind of what happens in this job. But in that time, you guys scored a touchdown, and you absolutely gave me 0 highlights that I could use from Liberty, because your defense was playing so well. We just saw one of the hits right there, and then you guys were keeping it on the ground and just running out. Like, I ran out of time. I was like, it'd be really nice if you guys, had to punt or something, so I could get one like first down from Liberty or something to show. And I've been so impressed with Liberty.
Yeah, sure. And
that is SCA football, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the thing. When I first got here, I remember it was my first season. I remember Kabul was like 1-8 or something like that. Maybe we were 2-7, and they're going in the postseason against a team that was a winning team, like maybe 6-3. And so I picked against them, and then they steamrolled that team. And Chris Barker said to me, he said, our web editor over there with Ozone, he's like, yeah, SCA football is different. And I was like, okay, now I get it, okay.
Yeah, they love their football in our part of the world. And so, whether you're 1-6 or 6-1, they just they're going to support you. Those boys are going to play hard. And every week's a challenge, but it's where I grew up at. It's where I learned how to coach football at. And, I've kind of made rounds in a way, but kind of back home. And I just look back at this and say, wow, it's really cool to know that what's happening in your town that night is high school football. I suppose it's the good and the bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, they're serious about what they do. An old coach of mine years ago, it was actually my own high school coach. We were talking about the career of coaching, and he says, go somewhere. Always try to go somewhere where football is important. And as I look back at that comment, I think how true that was, because you go to a community that's we want you to be good, but it's just words. But now in Mountain Grove, that's a different story. We want you to be good, and we expect you to be good. And we expect you to do the work. Now I think most of them would say that you win some, you lose some. But now look, you got to win football. You got to be competitive. And I just believe, for myself, that it's my responsibility to put a good product on the field. Now look, there's going to be games when you win. There's going to be some games you lose. But put a good product on the field. And down the SCA, you're just going to see kids that it's important to them, and they're going to be the best they can be on Friday night. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have tons of experience in the conference. When when they hired you, you had over 100 wins as a head coach and 12 seasons at Ava, 4 district titles, a state championship appearance. Then your son goes to Evangel, and you get to coach him. How's Nate doing, by the way?
He's doing great.
Yeah.
He went 2 years to Evangel before I went there to coach, and he had a great career there. And I mean, he was the national player of the week one week, and it was his senior year. And I'm just really proud of what he did. And you know what he did? He got married to a beautiful young lady, a wonderful girl that he met at Evangel. And they're living life and working construction, and he's kind of he's like a lot of young guys do. They're trying to find their way in life, and so he's he's just going to be good at whatever he does. And his wife Jazzy, she's going to be really good at whatever she does. She played basketball at Evangel.
Jazzy Kirby?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool. I've covered Jazzy several years. That's awesome.
Yeah. They got
the rebound queen of Missouri, right?
Well,
she has not rebound, the charge queen. Excuse me.
I wouldn't doubt that at all.
She took the most charges. We did a story on that when she was in high school, when she was at Redmo.
Yeah. She set like the national record or state record or something like that. So yeah, she's awesome. She's a very welcome part of our family. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure Nate's figured this out by now. But when you're walking around, when the two of them are walking around the kitchen, if they turn the corner at the same time, he'd better get out of the way because she's taking that charge. He'd better get out of the way. He's going to be on the...
I think he's figured that out.
Yeah.
If he hasn't, he's going to, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. No, she's awesome. That's great. So, yeah, it must have been weird playing against Ava the first time. That would be last season, right?
Yeah.
Coach Merrifield, you handed him the reins, and they got the best of you the first game. This year, you returned the favor. But what was it like going back to Ava like that?
Look, first off, they took me in there, and I learned so much about coaching there, and I just raised my kids there. They graduated from there. 2 of them did, and so it was they just were good to me. That's what I say about Ava. They were good to me, and we built that program. They loved their football there, and we just wanted to take that to a different level. And Coach Merrifield played for me, and then my son-in-law, Coach Garrett Baird, he is the D coordinator there as well. But I started hiring these guys that played for me, and so because I wanted them to speak the same language I did, and so we just got better. And then a guy by the name of Joe Shantz, I was able to hire Coach Shantz. We had worked together at Glendale one year and just became good friends. And that's where we learned the flex bone. And Joe just taught us honestly how to coach, to be honest with you. Joe was, at the end of his career, he said, I want to finish my career in a one-horse town. And for football was really important. So Joe taught us how to run the flex bone, and so we just kind of took that thing and end up in a state championship, and we just wanted that program. Let me just say, I wanted that program to continue on without, when I left, I didn't want that thing to fall off. A lot of coaches want those programs just go down the dumpster,
Yeah.
Hey, look at what I did,
Yeah, right.
Honestly, I can tell you from my heart that it's like I want that program to be good and solid. Now, when I came back there to coach, I obviously wanted to win that game, and knew that they were really good. And we were just building our program there at Mountain Grove and learning learning about the flex bone and the defense, and just learning about playing football the way I wanted to do it. And I'm not, before they had success, I just wanted to do it to a different, go to a different level with it. And so when we went there, and man, we had a battle, and I was in a situation where I was like, hey, we're right here in this game. In fact, I felt at halftime, if we weren't winning the game, we were like, it was really close. And so we had our chances to win that game. And that's when it's just like, I think the guys said, look, we can be pretty good. I mean, we were on the cusp of really getting good at that time. Because Ava at that time was like number 4 or 5 in the state. We were just like, wasn't sure we could even be in the ballpark with them, So when we darn near beat them, that kind of started making us think, hey, we may have something going on here. And so anyway, last year as that went by, we went on a 7-game win streak, and tied for a conference championship. And So the thing about this year when we played Ava was, look, it's the only team we hadn't beaten the conference, and so we kind of had that on a roll there, and so we were fortunate and we played really well that night, to be honest with you. Now, the Spare Grove game.
There you go. Yes,
hey,
the one game you lost. I had to show video.
I want to forget.
Yeah.
I think all coaches have these these games where, like, they kind of show up in the middle of the night in your mind. He's like, if we wouldn't have just we would have done this, or if I would have said that, or little things like that. And so Fair Grove was one of those nights. Like, my college coach was one of my college coaches who were at this game, Coach Katrosh. And Coach Katrosh came and found me after the game. I hadn't seen that dude in 40 years. That long.
Yeah.
And he found me, and he said, Coach, you probably learned more from losing this game than winning the game. And it's like, you're right, Coach. And we did. When I look at that, I say we really learned a lot from that process of going through it. You hated it. I hate it for the community, for the boys. A game that we had in our hands, and just let it slip away. And it's things that you learn as a coach and as a player. And so, anyway, that was a tough one.
I know. I was telling you, obviously, before we started, I was like, I got video of 3 games so far this season. One of them's the only one you lost, but that was a nice run right there. Look at that. That was great. But yeah, you guys were coming in against the defending state runner-up, and just, we knew that was going to be a close game, a good game, and you guys didn't disappoint with that. When I left at halftime, I was like, I'm going to miss a really good ending, and it turns out I did. So, and then we've got video from last year's postseason win over here, over Salem, who you may play next week.
Yes.
You're not really sure. So, what what is a bye week like for you? Do you prep for both teams? Do you kind of prep for other things?
Well, that's always the struggle and the tough part of coaching is, like, how do you handle these times off? And I've heard coaches say, well, you got to stay right in the moment, and you do. And I've heard coaches say, you got to have one eye in the future, and you do. And so you do a little bit of both, but you got to win that one in front of you, or you won't have any, you won't be able to think about the next one. So, on this bye week, I think it's important that that you keep kids into the fundamentals of what you do, and you keep them busy, but you try to let their body relax a little bit, or their mind. It's probably more about a mind thing. I know when I was playing, that was a long time ago, that when you got to week 9 and 10, you were just mentally and physically exhausted.
Yeah.
And when I started trying to figure out how to make football teams better and how to be the best coach I could be, one of the things I noticed about the good teams, the good programs, let me just say it like this, the good programs, their kids played just like it was week 1 and week 8, 9, and 10. They just had a little pop in their step. They just had a little flower, just a little energy about them that other teams didn't. And so I started researching that a little bit. I said, hey, Coach, I'd call these coaches like Billy Weber and Steve Hancock and Steve Airy and some of these guys that
Coach Airy, he was on this episode last time.
Yeah, look, he's one of the best. Hey, one of the things they don't do a ton of running. Everybody's like, gotta be, no, you keep these boys. They learn how to play football when they're on that field. They're not out there trying to run marathons, and so, that's not how it was when I was growing up. Let me just say it like that. And so anyway, we try to keep these boys fresh. The weight room is really important to us, so we'll be in the weight room working really hard this week, and then and getting some football in. But also saying, look, all right, we got to get ready. Next Friday, we're going to play a team that's going to be a win or die type of game, and so that's how we'll prepare for that. It's like, you guys, every game is important. Don't ever forget that.
Are you guys healthy heading into this bye week?
Yeah, we're pretty healthy. We got, Cale Gardner came back the other night, and he'd been out for a while, and he was very significant in the game as it turned out to be. And I don't know that I had particularly planned for that. I know what kind of athlete he is and what kind of player he is, and so you got to be able to use those guys. And I want guys like that out. But now we make our living with dudes like Wood Curtis and Aiden Estep, who's running the football. Eli Golden and Caden Murphy. These dudes are just banging in there, and our offensive line is so important to us. And so, blocking is really important. Catching the football is secondary to us, and so.
All right, well, wardrobe malfunction. We can put that mic back on. There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
that thing always pops off. There you go.
Kind of excited.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Football.
That's good. You capped that pretty good.
Knocking off the microphones.
There we go. There we go.
Anyway, health-wise, we're pretty solid with the usual bumps and bruises from from a season of football. We're doing pretty good.
So, I mean, now that you're back 2 years, I'm curious, coaching is such a grind. You're talking about a lot of things there that take, it feels like every day you're coaching, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times when I try to schedule these interviews, I got to really work around a coach's schedule because you guys are working on the weekends too. People don't realize that. What made you, when you went to the college level, did you think you would come back to high school, or what made you want to come back?
I don't know that I had planned on it. I wanted to try it, to be honest with you. When I always said that, I wanted to try the college level. There was just something me and my wife had talked about too a few years before that. It's like, we've been at Ava for a long time, and I remember going down the road saying, wouldn't it be cool to coach on the college level? I always wanted to do that. And we just kind of talked back and forth about it. But really, besides knowing Coach Hepla and kind of watching Evangel, and I study college programs. I go to practices a lot, and I used to go to Evangel and watch them practice because I'm always looking for ways to get better. Anyway, developed a relationship there, not just because my son played there, but just, I could see that he was a good man. And so we had talked a little bit, and I said, Coach, now look, if you ever have a position come open, I wouldn't mind giving it a try. He goes, no, hey, I'll take you up on that, And so going down the road one day and to a basketball game, and I get a phone call from Coach Hepla, and I'm thinking, oh no, Nate's either hurt or he's in trouble. Just what Dad's always thinking, coaches do. And so I answer it, and he's like, hey, we got a position open. Would that be something you might be interested in? Anyway, through a process of talking and praying and what we do, my wife and I, we're very spiritual people, and God's very important in our life. And we thought, Evangel and how we do things, it might be a good fit for us. And so, man, Ava's been so good for us. How can we do this? And so through that process, we just kind of said, look, this is what we're going to do. I don't know how we're going to do it because you don't make as much money at the college level as everybody thinks you do. Now, Evangel did me good, but not like, people think that, unless you're on the high level, and that's, we're talking NAI football, which is really good football. So we just decided to go for it. And, and again, it's kind of a God thing. It just worked out. I'm working at Evangel, and it was a good thing. And, as I went through that process, I'm learning so much. I thought I knew about football. Let me tell you something. If you guys ever wonder about Evangel University and what they're doing over there, that's a top-notch program. And it's like they work. If I think there's a perception in people's minds, oh, it's NAI, it's a little different. Well, I suppose it's different than, NCAA Division I top level, but the hours for coaches are the same. Right? So we were working, D1 level hours, and I'm working with dudes that are really, really good. Jeremy DeSoto is as good a defensive coach as there is in the state of Missouri, in the nation, if you want to ask me. I'm just telling you, he was really good at what he does. And so I learned a ton of football there, but as I went through that, I just started thinking, this is a young man's game, and I think the lack of a better term is I'm just enough redneck that I need to be in the country, in smaller school, and there was just I think that God put me there to learn, to some things that I need to do better, some things that I could help them with, which there wasn't a lot, but there was a little bit there. But mostly it's like learning that process. And then, then all of a sudden, the Mountain Grove job came open. And so I was like, you know what, I think I'm ready to get back in that world. So, it just kind of, again, God's timing's perfect, and it just worked out that I was able to go back to my hometown. My mother still lives there, and so I bought the house I grew up in, and so me and my wife Erin live there, and it's been really good, and so that's how that all happened.
That's awesome, and it's good to have you back here, Coach. Because when I got here, we first met right after you had left Ava, and I had just started working here, and you had the job. And they're like, "Hey, you got to go out to Evangel. You got to talk to this legendary Ava coach who's going into the college ranks." I'm like, "Okay, let's do that." Now that you've already got the team turned around, 8-1, 8 straight wins as part of that. You know who also lost on Friday was the state champs, Seneca. Didn't expect that against Lamar. Yes.
I'm lying.
I know, right? I knew you knew that. Yes. They are on your side of the bracket. What do you learn about a team that's across Southwest Missouri from you over there, and you guys might end up playing them?
Well, those dudes are good. That's all I can tell you is that they end up in the state championship for a reason, and they got guys coming back. And actually ran into their coach at a weight meet last winter and to a track meet, and he's like, "Hey, coach, we heard you're going to be pretty good." I said, "I don't know. I just know this. You're pretty good." And so anyway, we started up a conversation, and just knowing that you got those guys there that you're going to run into. That's like it's just part of it,
Mm-hmm.
And when I was at Ava, it was Lamar, and so now it's Seneca. And so, man, we hope we get a chance to play them. That's how
several games down the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's fun to see, some of these great programs, how they handle business. And, sometimes it can be so hard to decide. They try to figure out what's going to happen in a given season. What makes Southwest Missouri football great is just, no one picked that game to be that way. Just like no one else picked Mountain Grove but me. That would be me who did that.
Hey,
yes.
you did it. Hey, that's all right. We appreciate it.
They were fired up about that in the locker room, weren't they? Yes.
Oh, all right. My assistant coach is like, "There's just one guy that picked us," but no, it's all right. Hey, I like being the underdog, and I think Thayer's usually the underdog, and this was like, hey, this is the perfect scenario for us,
That's awesome. All right, now it's time to check my notes, make sure I asked you all the tough questions, Coach. Only amazing that, 2015, the last time Mountain Grove had a district title. What would it mean to end that 10-year drought there this year?
Well, it'd be great, golly, that's one of our goals that since I've been at Mountain Grove, one of our goals was, we just want to get better every day, and that's one thing that's we just kind of like right in the forefront of our minds. But with that said, we wanted to win a conference championship. Well, we tied for one last year, and then we got beat by a good Mount Vernon team in the semifinals, and then this year we're saying, we got this conference championship, and so it just you can't start just crossing off these goals before you get there until you get them. And so our thing is like we got to play, either Salem or
Buffalo. Yep.
Thank you. We've got to play one of them, and we got to beat them, and then we can go on to the next level, and who's going to be next, and if we can win that one, who's going to be next, It's just one of those kind of things that I think as a coach you want to do. You're not, as a coach, my job is to get those boys ready for Friday nights. Fans, they like to talk about what just happened and then what's going to happen and look into the future and start comparing you to years ago and this and that, and it's like, okay, hey, it's all fun, that's all great. I love doing that myself when I'm not the coach, but as the coach, my job is to get those dudes ready, get them ready mentally and physically. And the mental part is the biggest job. Yeah.
Well, rest up, Coach. That's awesome. We're excited to see you guys in a couple weeks here. Anything I didn't ask you about you want to mention?
No, I don't think so.
I always like to say that at the end because I don't want the coach to be like, you didn't ask me about this thing. Yeah.
I probably think, hey, who doesn't love talking about themselves, right?
That's what this is.
That's what my wife would say. She'd
Yeah.
say, hey, you're going to be great at this. You talk about yourself. No, I love talking about our guys. I love talking about Mountain Grove football. And, this, I can't say enough about these boys, and what they do. They are I had some really hard kids that worked hard at Ava, and they were great kids. You know, my son was one of them. This bunch of boys, and they work as hard as any bunch of kids I've ever coached. And man, it's important to them, and I am just so proud of that. You know, they had a new coach come in a couple years ago, and they were a spread offense, and here we got this guy wanting to run this thing called a flex bone. What are they talking? Hey, they have embraced that. It fits them perfectly. To me, you know, of course, I'm going to say that, but I'm just so proud of what they've done, and I want them to, you know, have the best season they could have and be the best version of themselves they can have. And I want to create those memories for those boys. And so, anyway, I just wanted to say how proud I was of my players, you know, and mostly my wife.
Hey.
She's sitting in the back.
Right over there. What's up? Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah.
She's the perfect coach's wife. I'm just telling you, she's perfect, you know. She's there as a sounding board when I need it, and she encourages me when I need it, and you know, so, and she loves on those boys. Oh my goodness, you know, she just is what a coach's wife ought to be, you know. So I'm grateful for her.
Yeah,
blessed.
That's bad. What do they say is behind every great man, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
He's head coach Dan Swofford. Hey, do you know how we end this thing? I don't know if you've seen it yet. Okay, you know, like at the end of a movie thing, you have the thing cut. You know what I mean? Okay, we do that. I always do that with coach. Okay, pretend we have it right here. Okay, so go like this with your hands. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
At the count of 3, we're gonna end this thing. Crunch time with Chris. 1, 2, 3. Boom! That was good. All right, that was good.